Yan. Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss the first lesson here in Computer Programming 12A. So before anything else, I want you guys to at least open your NetBeans as well para at least kahit pa paano nakakasabay tayo sa presentation natin. So, yan. So in my case, naka-prepare na yung NetBeans ko dito. So mamaya, gagamitin natin yan. Napaka-importante yan kasi lahat ng discussion natin or lahat ng sample codes natin gagawin natin for you to have a better understanding on how our code works. So, let's start. Meron tayong different topics here for midterms. Actually, naka-separate to. So, for today, we will be learning about computer files and we will be using the path class in programming. So, ayan. First of all, let's try to understand what are computer files. So from the word itself, computer files, okay? Well, of course, obviously, those are the files in your computer, tama? Pero we have two types of different storage devices. Number one, we have volatile storage and the non-volatile storage. Now, when we say volatile storage, these are temporary storage that is lost when a computer loses its power. Kagaya ng example natin dito, which is the RAM. Okay, so temporary lang po kapag volatile. Now, every time you are trying to write a Java program, automatic po, the value will be stored in your RAM, which is considered as a volatile storage. Meanwhile, when we say non-volatile, kabaliktaran yan, permanent naman yan. Okay? Non-volatile storage is actually a permanent storage that is not lost when a computer loses its power. Now, for example, yan, hard disk, SSDs, yan, USB flash disk, and so on. When you write a Java program and save it to a disk, automatic, that is what we call non-volatile storage. Now, computer files are a collection of data stored on a non-volatile devices. Napaka-importante po niyan kasi later on, makikita natin or magagawa tayo ng program in which we will access a specific file. Now, you can categorize different files by the way they stored those data. We have four. We have text files that simply contains texts or data yan, that can be read in a text editor using Notepad, for example. We also have data files. Yan. It contains facts and figures, such as, for example, payroll. Usually, pag data files kasi, ang ginagamit dito is, anong tawag doon? Mga Excel files, CSV files, mga comma-separated values, which will be discussed further in the future. We also have here a program or application files. These are the files that store software instructions, such as the following: executable, yan, .exe, .dot, yan, .database, and .binary, or .bin, tinatawag natin. And we have what we call the binary files that contains data that has not been encoded as text because, computer languages can only understand binary codes that comprises of ones and zeros. Ito po. Yan lang yan. Automatic yan. Now, automatic po na kino-convert po ng computers natin ang binary files natin into the hexadecimal files into a text files which we can understand later on. Ayan. Now, we have to understand also what's the meaning of the following. Root directory. When we say root directory, from the word itself, root, okay, it refers to the main directory. When we say folders or directories, obviously, alam na rin natin yan, it's used to organize stored files. Now, this is important. When we say path in Java programming, okay, it is the complete list of the disk drive plus the hierarchy of directories in which a file resides. An example of a path here is this one. C, Java, Chapter 1, yan, mga ganyan, and so on. Mamaya, gagawa tayo ng program in which we will try to access. Okay, we will try to access a path using a certain code in Java. We also have here what we call path delimiter. Yan. Usually, that refers to what we call backslash sa Java programming. Next. Yan. When you work with stored files in an application, you typically perform the following tasks. Now, first of all, you have to determine whether the path exists or not. If the path exists, we will try to open that. Okay, we will try to open that using a certain code later on. And we will also try to write to that file, read to that file, close, and delete that. Yun yung gagawin natin for this specific lesson. Okay? So, first of all, path classes in Java. So, in Java programming, we have here what we call a path class. Now, in order for you to use the path class in Java, you have to import the following. The java.nio. NIO stands for New Input and Output. Ayan. So, gagamitin natin to para makagawa tayo later on ng, or para magamit natin si path class, and at the same time, para what do you call this one? Ma-access natin yung file na gusto nating ma-access. Okay? So, using the path classes, you need to first define them. You need to define a path. So you can actually use getPath method. Yan, mamaya makikita natin to, okay? Makikita natin to later on kung paano natin gagamitin. Okay. Now, for you guys to better understand this, so this method here, getPath, yan, inside the getPath method is actually the path address na meron tayo. So, the path address here is enclosed by double quotation, ayan, together with a backslash. Mamaya makikita natin kung paano gagamitin yan. First of all, we have an absolute path, okay? It is a complete path, and a relative path, it is one that depends on the other path information. So, using the path classes, ito, you don't need to memorize this one. However, you have to be familiar on how to use this. So, mamaya, gagamitin natin to sa first program natin. So, I want you guys to open your NetBeans and let's try to at least do the very first code na ipapakita ko sa inyo. Okay, ito. And so, nakikita naman, no? Yan. So, first of all, let's create a new project, Java class. Sabihin natin path class. And let's create a new Java class here. The first demo is path demo. And okay, before starting, I want you guys to go to your desktop. Okay? Go to your desktop. Tapos, gawa kayo dyan ng file. Text files, for example. Lagyan natin to. Pangalanan natin tong data.txt. Okay. So, inside the data.txt, I'm going to write something. Kahit ano, bahala kayo kung anong gusto nyo ilagay. Yan. So, next is for us to determine the address or the path address of data.txt. You can usually check the data address by clicking on properties. Ayan. Tapos, ayan po. In my case, it's located in E desktop. So, in your case, that will be very different. Okay, so depende po. So, kung ako sa inyo, i-copy na natin itong location natin. So, copy that. And just stay right there lang muna. Okay. First of all, let's try to import java.nio.file. Ganyan. Okay? So, same pa rin tayo. So, meron tayo dito main method in which we already know na kailangan natin yan para gumana yung code natin. Tama? Ayan. Now, first of all, let us try to use the path class, ito, which was actually imported from this package. Ayan. Path, and let's name that as file path is equal to paths.get. Now, from the pasted location earlier, or copied location earlier, just simply paste that here. And this time, add the data.txt na file na meron na ginawa mo kanina. So, kung napansin nyo kanina, asan yun? Ito. Diba? So, it is located, in my case, sa desktop. So, in your case, that will be very different. Ayan. And so on. Oops. May nag-message. Hold on. Yung... Teka. Pinapakita nyo ba yung program? Ay, talaga ba? Hindi nakikita yung... Ano ko? Yung PowerPoint. Ayan, nakikita naman dito. Ayan, nag-i-install po. It's okay. Yung mga nag-i-install, sige, okay lang. Habol na lang kayo later on. Ayan, hindi ba nakikita? Hindi ba nakikita yung code ko? In my case, nakikita naman. Kindly double check. Sir, hindi po ma-download yung NetBeans. Bakit nga eh? Siguro nag-uninstall ka na ng NetBeans before. Try in a different browser if ayaw mag-download. Hold on. Kung ayaw mag-download, bigyan ko kayo ng link dito. Download NetBeans. For now, ito muna. Okay. Ito. So, kung nakikita nyo, ayan. Ito po. Miss Angela, yung PowerPoint ko lang ba ang nakikita? Ayan, I hope nakikita na. How about this one, Miss Angela, nakikita na ba? Yung buong code? I see, okay. So, sige, sandali lang ha. Mr. Harry Dominguez, yes, for now, yung Java SE muna. Antayin natin yung ibang, kapag nandun na tayo mismo sa Java EE, tuturuan ko naman kayo kung paano natin totally papalitan or paano natin gagamitin yung Java EE natin. So, for now, yung SE muna tayo. Okay? Yan. So, Miss Angela, ano nang nakikita mo? Hindi mo pa rin makita yung code? How about the others? Nakikita ba yung code? Ayun, nakikita naman yung iba. Yung iba hindi. Okay. Hindi. Okay. Sige. Wait lang natin ha. Hindi pala nakikita eh. Okay, how about this one? Nakikita nyo na? Or hindi pa rin? Ayan, nakikita na. Okay. Kay Miss Angela, hindi pa rin kita. Siguro, try mong i-maximize yung screen mo. Or i-minimize mo yung i-minimize mo yung, nakikita mo yung upper right corner. sa PowerPoint. Pindutin mo yan, yung minimize. I think makikita mo na. Ayan, kita na nung iba eh. I think you can minimize that. Oy, hala. Bakit di pa rin kita kay Miss Angela? Yung iba kita na. Okay. Anyways, Miss Angela, since nakikita mo naman pala yung PowerPoint, I am actually trying to, what do you call this, to recreate the demo 1. Yan. Kung nakikita mo yung demo 1 sa PowerPoint presentation, yan, yun ang sundan mo muna, yung demo 1 natin. Okay? So, right now, for the meantime lang, for the meantime. Okay? Ayan, so, continue natin. Once again, first of all, let's try to review the first line here na nakikita natin, yung import java.nio.file. That's the very first package you have to import first. Okay, in order for us to use the path class. Next is, kung ano yung favorite natin ginagawa ng last year, we created the class, then followed by the main method. And this time, after the main method, we tried to create the path class na meron tayo. So, we call the path object and name that as file path. So, itong file path na to, you can actually change this into anything na gusto mo. Now, for the paths.get, okay, that is actually where your, that's actually where your data.txt file is located. So, in my case, it is located in my desktop. Yan. Sa inyo, siguro may C, ganyan, C, double backslash, and so on. So, kung i-share ko yung screen ko, titignan natin ha, kung i-share ko yung screen ko, tapos hanap tayo halimbawa dito ng ibang file. Yan. Say for example, ito. So, nakikita nyo to, di ba? Yan. So, kung for example, gusto kong kunin itong file na to, itong module 1 na to, I can just simply go here sa may taas and copy that. Ayan, and simply paste that here. Ayan, so automatic po na mailalagay na natin yung location ng path natin. Pero in my case, I used this location, itong data.txt muna for the meantime. Okay? So let's go back to our code. Ayan. Do not forget the file ha, ito. Do not forget to include the file because we will try to access this one. Okay. Next. We will now try to count, okay? Get name count. Ayan. We will now try to count kung ilan nga ba yung location yan. So, anong sinusubukan nating i-count yan? We are trying to count the location path from here up to this one. So, using the PowerPoint na meron tayo kanina, try nyong bumalik ng isang page and try to see the description of int get name count. So, according here, int get name count returns the number of name elements in the path. So, starting from here, 1, 2, 3. Titignan natin kung 3 nga ba. Or mag-start pa yan sa 0, 1, or 2. Okay. So, let's try to take a look. Print natin yan. System.out.println. I hope natatandaan nyo pa ha. Path is... Now, in order for us to print the path na ginawa natin, let's use the file path object dot to string. Ayan. That is actually how you print the path you have just created earlier. Ayan. Path is, ayan po. Diba? Next, print tayo ulit ng panibago. System.out.println The file name is, ano yung file name na gusto natin lumabas? Dapat lalabas yan itong data.txt. Okay. The file name is, how are we going to access the file name? So file path dot get name and count minus 1. Okay. What does it mean? The get name method, based from the description from the previous slide, the get name returns the last item in the sequence of name elements. Okay, we are trying to get the name of the last element. In this case, okay, ano yung kinukuha natin? Count minus 1. Kapag hindi ko kasi nilagyan ng minus 1 yan, automatic magkakaroon yan ng out of bounds. Kasi ang bilang yan is from 0, 1, 2. So the count is actually automatic 3. Okay, parang array. Think of an array. It will always start from 0. However, kung bibilangin mo yung elements sa array, 1, 2, 3. Tatlo siya. So, 3 minus 1 is 2. So, automatic, this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So, automatic, it will return a value of count minus 1, which is data.txt. Now, let's try to run that. Yan. So, the file name is automatic data.txt. Ganyan siya. Okay? So, next, let's try to print out, print line, there are, yung count natin. Gamitin natin yung count. Ayan. Let's try to count the number of elements in the file path. Okay. Let's try to count the number of elements in the file path. So if I run that, there are 2 elements in the file path. Paano naging 2? Okay, paano siya naging 2? Because this is 0, 1, 2. Para siyang array. Okay, para siyang array. Next, ayan. We can actually try printing out the value of elements ng isa-isa. So, let's create a for loop. X plus count, x plus plus, and let's try to print them one by one. Element plus the first element, para mas maintindihan natin kung ano yung mga piniprint, plus file path get name x. Ayan. Element plus x is, okay, tama. Ayan. Teka lang, ulitin ko na lang. Ayun. So, the first element here is the desktop. Ayan. The second element is the data.txt. Okay. Gawa tayo ng mas mahaba. I will try to use longer file path here. And instead of .text, gagamit ako dito ng iba. Halimbawa, yan, module1.pdf. So, in your case, pwede nyo pong palitan kung ano yung gusto nyong folder or path location na gusto nyong itry. So, in my case, mag-iiba lahat ito, di ba? So, the path will automatically result or print the entire path and everything. Sir, pwede sa Notepad mag-code? Yes po. However, hindi nyo siya ma-execute kung wala kayong Java SDK. So, kailangan may Java SDK talaga kayo. Sir, necessary po ba yung toString sa line number 9? Actually, optional ito. Yan, optional ito, yung toString na to. This is simply for us to print ito, kung ano mo yun. Siguro, for the sake lang na kapag gagawa ka ng program or gagawa ka ng application na gusto mong makita kung ano talaga yung complete location ng file na hinahanap mo. So, I think this is not really necessary, but then that depends on how you will use it. Ayan. So, using the new path natin, ayan, kung napansin nyo, there are now 6 elements in the file path. So, there are 6 elements. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Diba? Ang dami. Ang dami na. 6 elements. So, element 0 is desktop, element 1 is this one, element 2, and so on and so forth. And so, ang idea nito, ang idea kasi ng path classes natin, this is only a, what do you call this one? A sample kung paano natin i-access yung mga files. Kasi later on, ang gagawin natin, we will try to access them and at the same time, we will try to read and write to them. Because what we are trying to do here is that kapag nandun na tayo sa application ng database management system, it's really important for you to know how to manipulate files. Kasi kapag ka nag-update ka ng pangalan or nag-update ka ng age sa file, dapat alam mong i-update yan uh, continuously. So kapag ka hindi mo alam gamitin to, definitely medyo may hirapan ka sa database management system later on. Okay? So that's the first, the path demo. Now using the second demo na meron tayo, path demo 2. Okay, itong path demo 1 na to, this is actually how we retrieve the information of the path. So let's create another Java class here and let's proceed to the next and path demo 2. And for path demo number 2, ang pinakagagawin natin dito is we will try to convert a relative path to an absolute path. Ano nga ba ulit ang ibig sabihin ng relative and absolute? Pag absolute, it is a complete path. Okay, complete path siya. And it doesn't need any other information to locate a file on a system. Pero when we say relative, it only depends on other path information. So for example, yung data.txt na meron tayo. Okay. Now, let's try to, medyo madali lang to, tong path demo number 2 natin. Okay. So, for path demo number 2, converting a relative path to an absolute path. Ayan. So, import Java. Kung natatandaan nyo kung paano gumamit ng scanner, ayan. Mag-scanner tayo. Import. And do not forget to use the java.nil.file and so on. So, gamit tayo ng scanner para mag-enter or mag-input ng pangalan ng file natin. So, public static void main string args. And let's declare a variable name and let's declare the scanner. I hope you can still remember this one. System.in. Yan. Diba? Madali lang naman ang scanner. Actually, pinakamadali yan. Now, let's try to enter a file name. Enter a file name. Enter a file name. Let's try to flush that and put the value in the variable name. Name is equal to keyboard dot next line. Ayan. So, automatic, di ba? So, alam nyo na once we enter the file name, automatic, it will be stored in this variable name. Okay? What's next? Let's create or let's call the path object and let's name that as input path. And let's store that in paths.get. Okay, ano ulit ang ibig sabihin ng get method? Based from the description, the get name or the get method, okay, anong ginaget natin dyan? We are trying to get the entire address of the path. Pero this time kasi, hindi totally address ang makukuha mo dito, but instead, the name of the file name na in-input mo dito. Ganun lang siya. Okay? Now, in order for you to convert that, ayan, into an absolute path, ayan, full path, you can just simply use path, full path, input path, dot to absolute path. Ayan. Ang ginagawa nito, you are trying to convert, okay, you are trying to convert the input path, which is yung in-enter mo dito, into an absolute path. Okay. So kapag titignan natin yan ngayon, system.out.println, the full path is full path dot to string. Ayan. So diyan papasok ngayon yung to string kapag gusto nating makita yung in-enter natin. Okay. So this is only simulation. Simulation lang to ha. Hindi siya totally yung eksakto sa ina-expect nyo. Kasi for example, ang file name natin is data.txt. Okay. Example lang yan. Kung mapapansin nyo dito, wala tayong mismong eksaktong path or location na dineclare. But instead, we only used a certain a scanner para makita natin yung full path kunwari. Okay? So, once we enter data.txt for example, ayan, automatic, the full path is, ayun, e-documents NetBeans projects path class data.txt. So, saan siya nakikita? Kung bubuksan nyo to, I don't know kung mabubuksan nyo on your end, pero in my case kasi, ayan, makikita siya dito. Ayan. Makikita siya dito, pero yung data.txt na file na in-enter nyo dito, hindi siya talaga totally nag-exist. Okay? Pero, the point here of path demo number 2 is we are trying to convert this one, okay, a relative path into a full-fledged path na meron tayo. So, automatic dito po nag-i-store yan sa documents NetBeans projects path class. Yung path class po is the project name. Ito. The project name. Yan. And the data.txt is the one we entered earlier. So, ganun siya. Okay? Oh, so, I hope na nag-gets nyo yung idea ng pag-convert nito. Hindi nyo totally magagamit to eh. To be honest ha, hindi nyo totally magagamit. Ewan ko eh. In my own experience, never ko nagamit ang pag-convert ng relative path to an absolute path. Pero syempre, you have to know kung paano siya gamitin nga lang. Okay? So, balik tayo dito sa slide natin. Ayan. Checking file accessibility. Now, we will try to check if the file is accessible. Ano ibig sabihin? From the word itself, accessible ga ba yung file? Does it even exist or not? Diba? So you can use the check access method, ito, to verify a file's existence. Now, you can actually import this statement here, import static java.nio.file.access mode, in order for us to check the accessibility of a file. And also, you can use the following arguments. Read, yan, write, and execute. Mamaya, makikita natin sa example code natin kung paano siya totally magagamit. Okay? Now, Java's static import feature takes effect when you place the keyword static. Mamaya, makikita natin. Kasi we will try now to add the word static between the import and the name of the package being imported. Okay. So, for example, ito. Dito tayo. Ito. So, share ko ulit yung screen ko para makita natin kung anong ibig sabihin yan. Yeah, so let's go back to NetBeans. And let's try to create the third sample program in which we will now check the accessibility of a file. So, demo number 3, path demo 3, and sana sa end nyo ginagawa nyo rin or sumasabay kayo kasi alam nyo yun, after this kasi meron tayong performance task, di ba? So, kailangan nasasabayan. Ayan. First of all, import java.nio.file. Ayan. Now, let's try to import another. So, instead of trying to just simply re-import this one, meron tayong static. Ayan. java.nio.file.access mode. Ayan. But if you can still remember the definition of static from your 11B, static means it's not dynamic. It's only there. Diba? Kasi kung wala ito, okay, kung tatanggalin natin to, okay lang. Pero, medyo mahaba ang paggawa mo later on sa code. Okay, meron ka pang, mamaya papakita ko sa inyo. So, the reason why we added static here is for us to automatically use the following arguments. Yan, yung read, write, and execute instantly. Kung wala yung static, medyo mahaba pa yung code nyo. So, kaya yun yung purpose ng static yan eh. As is na siya. Also, let's create here an exception. IO exception. Yan. And public static void main string args. Yan. Now, let's use the same file path natin equals copy ko na lang yung ito. Copy ko na lang ito, yun yung ilalagay ko dito. Para hindi na mahirapan. Ayan. Okay. So in your case, medyo mag-iiba yan ha. Medyo iba yung lalabas sa inyo dito. So, let's try to print that. System.out.println. The path is yan, gamit tayo ulit ng toString. Okay. So, kapag niran mo yan, dapat magpiprint. Ayun, nagprint, di ba? So, nagprint. So, in your end, iba yung path ninyo, pero we just want to make sure na nagprint yung path na kinuha natin. And let's now try to add a try catch exception handling. IO exception to at least, makatch niya lahat ng error. If the file is not accessible, automatic, makakatch niya yan dito and it will print system.out.println file cannot be used for this application. Yan. So, ganyan siya. Now, for the try, hindi ko din-discuss to kung paano gumamit ng try catch Basically, this is only exception handling na tinatawag natin. So, try, dito kasi papasok yung gusto mong itry muna na code. So, if the code provided a false value, automatic, ikakatch niya yan and it will print out this one. So, para siyang if-else, pero mas matindi. Kasi mas malawak yung error na makakatch niya. Yan, file path that get file system. Yan. Dot provider dot check access. Check access. Ano yung i-check natin? Yung file path. We will try to read that and execute. Ayan. So, once again, papasok yan dito. Kaya tayo gumamit ng static kasi read and execute na lang yan. Kapag wala yung static, lalagyan pa natin ng access mode .read. Gaganyan pa. Ayan o. Diba? So, gaganyan pa yan. So, kaya tayo naglagay ng static para automatic na read and execute na lang yung ilalagay mo dito ng minsanan. Let's try to print. System.out.println file can be read and executed. Oops, since sa provider, walang ganyan. Ayun. So, ulitin natin. We are now trying to access this file path. Okay? Pero meron tayong iba't ibang methods na tinawag. Yan, overloading methods tayo dito. Yan. Get file system, .provider, .check access. Basically, itong .provider kasama yan dito. Hindi yan pwede mapaghiwalay. So, .check access. Is it readable? Is it executable? If yes, automatic, this will now print. Ayan, diba? So, the file can be read and executed. Pero, tignan natin, baguhin natin halimbawa yung file name na hindi nag-e-exist. Tignan nga natin kung anong mangyayari. Ayun. Diba? Nung binago ko yung file, meaning this file, this particular file, doesn't really exist in the file. That's why napunta siya sa catch. dito. File cannot be used for this application. Nagets nyo po ba? So, automatic. Kapag ka, kumbaga, tinitignan lang naman natin kung accessible ba yung file or, kung nag-i-exist ba siya o hindi. Kung nag-i-exist, then papasok siya dito. Kung hindi nag-i-exist, then dito. That's how simple the code works. Pero medyo tricky yung performance tasks ninyo later on. Kaya kailangan ninyo siyang intindihin maigi. Okay? That's demo number 3. Ito na. My favorite part is this part, deleting a path. Pero syempre, mag-iingat kayo ha pag magdi-delete ng path. Ayan. So, when we try to delete a certain path, ayan, yes, it's possible in Java. Okay. Now, we have the following exception na gagamitin natin in order for us to delete a certain file or certain path in Java programming. So, let's now try to delete a path. Pero syempre, baka mamaya system32 yung i-delete ninyo. Wag. Kasi, possible yun. Ayan. Teka lang, gagawa muna ako dito ng kukunin ko muna to. Ayan. Yung gusto kong i-delete na file para safe. Okay. So let's create another path demo 4. And path demo 4, this is actually where we will try to delete. Okay, so import java.nio.file .asterisk. Okay. And do not forget, kung gusto nyo kasi magkaroon ng exception handling, do not forget to import this IO exception. Okay? Yan signals that an IO exception of some sort has occurred. So, IO exception. Yan. And our favorite, public static void main string args. Okay. Now, for the file path, paths.get data.txt. So, that exists in my end. So, sa inyo, mag-ingat kayo kasi gusto nating burahin. Okay? We will try to delete this one. Okay? Now, the next step that we are going to do is for us to create a different try-catch method. So, in this case, gagamit tayo ng files.delete method. Yan. So, ganyan lang siya. So, kung gusto nyo i-delete ito, just use this. As simple as that. Files.delete file path. Okay. So, system out the print line. Tapos, file or directory is deleted. Okay. Now, for the following exception, let's try to create a catch. First of all, no such file exception E. Ano ginagawa nito? If there's no such file or if this path doesn't really exist at all, yan, automatic pupunta yan dito sa catch method na to. So, system. Ay, hindi gumagana yung shortcut. Okay, system.out.println no such file or directory. Okay. Automatic ha, pupunta yan dyan. Next, another catch. Ano yung gusto nating i-catch dito? Directory not empty exception E. Okay. So, pupunta yan dito if the directory is not empty. Is not empty. Tandaan nyo ha, if it is not empty. System.out.println directory is not empty. Ayan. Next catch. Itong next catch na to, security exception. Ito, para sure na hindi nyo talaga totally ma-delete yung, say for example, gusto nyo i-delete ang system32, kailangan nyo itong exception na to. Kasi ang purpose ng security exception na to is that if you're trying to delete a certain path that you don't have any permission, such as system32, dito yan magagamit. So let's try to delete that. And no permission to delete. Ayan. And lastly, yung pinaka-last natin na IO exception E. System.out.println. Ayan. Okay na. Okay. So, working na, di ba? First of all, we tried to declare a path object with the following location. Ito. And we will try to delete that. Okay? Kapag na-delete, automatic ito. Okay. Let's try to run that. Run file. No such file or directory. Yan. Bakit nga ba no such file or directory? Kasi in my case, na-delete na siya kanina pa. Dinilit ko siya dito. So, lalagyan ko ngayon, or gagawa ko ngayon ng, hanap ako ng file dito na pwede nating i-delete. Teka, gusto ko mag-delete eh. Teka lang ha. Maghanap ako ng file na gusto kong i-delete. Delete this.txt. Ito. Sige nga, subukan ko nga to. Delete. Okay. Oops, no such file or directory pa rin. No such file or directory. Okay. Oo, kasi in my case, nadidelete siya agad dito. Yan, nadidelete siya agad in my case. So, kung itatry nyo yan, makikita nyo agad na possible po na ma-delete talaga agad-agad yung gusto nyong file na gusto nyong i-delete. Okay? So, files.delete. Yan. And so on. So, kapag tinanggal ko to, ayan, ayan o. Nung tinanggal ko yung file name, the directory is not empty. Diba? Directory is not empty. Pero kung gusto natin na i-delete yung specific na directory, ito rin yan. No permission to delete. Dito yan papasok. Ayan, so, delete ko yan. Ayun. Dito siya. Kung gusto ko namang i-delete ito, .docx. Actually, kahit ano pwedeng ma-delete dito. Ayun. File or directory is deleted. Naku, patay. Na-delete nga dito sa end ko. Oops. Undo. Patay tayo niyan. Wala na. Na-delete na. Documentation template. Anyways. Diba? So, delikado yan kapag gusto nyo mag-delete. Okay. Any questions so far? I think may mga nagta-type. Sige, go ahead. Ask questions. Okay. Isa-isa kay Mark Adam. Sir, paano yung security exception? Okay. Say for example, sige, matapang ako eh. Lagay ko sa system32 sandali lang. Try natin. Paglaruan ko lang. Saan ba yung system32 ko dito? Yung mga imposibleng lugar. Ito. Tingnan natin kung pwede tayong makadelete dito. Ayan. Kung anong lalabas. Diba? So, pwede siyang pumunta dito sa IO exception pwede rin siya pumunta dito sa security exception. Kasi you don't have any permission to delete something sa loob ng System 32, basically. Tama? So, talagang pupunta yan dito sa security exception or dito sa IO exception. So, in this case, we are trying to delete this kasi itong path na to. So, imbes na pumunta yan dito, dito siya pumunta. Bakit? Again, pupunta yan dito if you are trying to delete a certain file. Pero if not, automatic yan. Dalawa yan mababasa. Ito yung mababasa niya, IO exception. Kumbaga, Java decided to use this or created this one para mas safe, di ba? Para mas safe sa end natin na hindi tayo basta-basta pwedeng makadelete in something. Okay? Kay Harry, ano yung tanong ni Harry? Sir, wala pong type ng delete na mapupunta sa recycle bin. Mapupunta sa recycle bin. May napunta ba sa recycle bin ko? Wala. Wala po. Wala po. Hindi po siya pupunta sa recycle bin. Hindi. Pero somewhere sa... Actually, hindi. Hindi talaga. Ewan ko baka kung ano nang dinilit nyo dyan Teka, ano bang dinilit ko dito? Open ko nga yung recycle bin ko. Date deleted. Oo nga, hindi siya napunta sa recycle bin. So, be very careful. Kasi nag-shift delete siya, di ba? Ayun. Any question so far? Okay, may mga nagtatype. Antayin natin magtanong. Okay, Mark. Wala siyang question si Mark. Si Dondo, wala rin. Si Tulay. Sir, pwede ba tanggalin yung security sa isang file? What do you mean by tanggalin yung security sa isang file? You mean if we can try to add a permission? Kasi pwede natin, yes, I think if you will right-click any file, di ba? Tapos properties, tapos pumunta kayo sa security. Yan. Kung pumunta kayo sa security, yes, you can actually remove the security of a certain file. Di ba? Meron kang makikita dyan na, eto, teka, mag-share screen ako. Eto. Yan. Say for example, this one. Di ba? Yung data.txt natin. So, if you will try to edit the permission, you have, for example, ito, administrator. Pwede mo kasing i-edit yan and you will try to remove. Yan. Pwede mo kasing tanggalin lahat ng permission ng lahat. So, you can do that. You can just simply play around kung paano siya mag-work. Say, for example, ayaw nyo ipa-delete ito talaga. So, halimbawa, itong data.txt file mo is ayaw mo talagang i-delete na kahit sino, you can just simply click on deny. So, kahit sino user sa PC mo, hindi kayang i-delete ito. Just simply click on deny. Yan. So, in this case kasi sa administrators, yan, allowed. So, ibig sabihin, yes, pwede ko po siyang i-delete. Okay? Craig, yes, you can be the administrator. Pwede rin yun. Isa rin siyang option. Okay, so I think pwede na tayo mag-proceed din sa isa. Malapit naman na tayong matapos kung tutuusin. We still have 2 remaining demo for paths. Ayaw mag-install ng NetBeans. Wala. At yung JVM. Java Virtual Machine. Ginamit nyo ba yung link na binigay ko kanina? Kasi ito yung pinaka-easiest na way kung paano alam niyo yun, mag-install. If that's the case, I think the first thing na pwede nyo munang gawin for now is delete any Java-related application sa PC nyo. Meron kang makikita sa control panel mo na Java. Delete mo muna yan. Uninstall mo muna. And you can start or you can freshly install NetBeans as if, alam mo yun, never pa siya na-install. Kasi ganun yung ginawa ko kanina eh. Nag-ano yan, kumbaga, ano yan, na-override niya yung old Java. Sige. Habol na lang ha, habol. Anyways, naka-record po itong big blue button natin. Later on, i-upload ko na lang po ito sa canvas natin para may mabalikan kayo kung sakaling na kaligtaan nyo yung parts na gusto nyong maintindihan ulit. Okay? So, I think we can now proceed. Nasa na tayo? Deleting path. Okay, ito na. So, in this part, we will now try to determine the file attributes. Ano nga ba yung mga file attributes natin? Now, we can use the read attribute method to basically to retrieve any useful information about a certain file. You might create an instance, okay, with a statement such as the following. Gagamitin natin ito mamaya. Ipapaintindi ko kung anong ibig sabihin yan. And you can also use a number of method. Ito yung exciting eh, kasi this time, you can now check the size of the file. You can also check the creation time and the last modified time of your file. Kung kailan siya create, kung kailan siya na-modify. Okay? So, pasok ulit tayo sa NetBeans ko. NetBeans. Ayan. Okay, so, path demo number 5 na pala tayo. Haba na. Path demo 5. Ayan. Oops, nawala. Ayan, nakikita naman, no? So, first of all, do not forget, since ibang usapan na to, nio.file.asterisk. Okay. So, if we are trying to access the attributes of a file, do not forget to import this. Yan, yung import java.nio.file.attribute. Okay? Importante yan. Lalo kapag gusto na natin siyang tignan yung size and everything. Okay? Next, import java.io exception. Yan. Public static void main. Yan. Ano ba yung maganda kong path dito? Ito na lang. Gagamitin ko ulit yung path na yan para hindi na ako mahirapan. Okay. So, meron na akong file path dyan. What I'm going to do here is for P to create a try-catch method once again and proceed with the IO exception para kapag wala siyang pagka kahit anong error dito siya pupunta. IO exception. Yan. Now, in order for us to take a look at the attribute, we can use this object, basic file attributes, attr. Attr, ako nag-ano yan ha, so pwedeng yung gamitin. Bahala kayo kung anong gusto nyo dito. So, attr in my case. So, attr is equal to files dot read attributes. Ayun no, read attributes. Okay. Now, inside the read attributes, we have 3 parameters. The file path, the type, which is, ano nga ba yung, natin dito? Basic file attribute dot class, and wala na to LOS. Yan. Ganyan lang siya. Okay, so basic file attributes attr is equal to files dot read attributes, file path, tama ba? Basic file attribute.class. Okay, so I guess pwede na yan in my case. So, create tayo ngayon ng system.out.println creation time. Okay. Gusto nating makita kung kailan siya na-create. attr.creation time. Ayan. Pero, bakit ako may error? Yung gusto kong malaman, saan nanggagaling yung error ko? Okay. So, dito yan. I think dito yan. Basic file attributes. attr, okay. Files that read attributes. File path. Basic file attributes. Ayun. Diba? S lang pala kulang. That class. Yan. So, ganun po mag-debug. Usually, aabutin ka pa ng ilang oras. In reality, makikita mo and marirealize mo na S lang pala yung kulang or single letter lang pala yung kulang. So, it will happen. Lalo kapag ka nagko-code na talaga kayo. Yung sa work, sa industry, ganun talaga. So, let's try to take a look at the creation time of this file. Yung module1.pdf. So, kailan ko siya create? Ayun. September 15, 2021. Last week. O, diba? Ano to? Oras to time. 5:27. Diba? Creation time yan. Let's try to take a look kung kailan naman natin siya minodify. Last modified time. Plus attr at last modified time. Okay. Tignan natin. Last modified time. Ayun. So, last time ko siya na inedit is September 7. Parang baliktad. Ay, hindi. Tama naman. Create ko siya September 15. Parang ang weird, no? Tapos, minodify ko September 7. Parang ang weird na. Teka lang. Double check ko nga. Parang ang weird sa ano. So, in my case, it was created. Tama. It was created September 15. Pero I modified September. Last modified was September 7, 2020. Okay, last year. Last modified kasi, oo. Okay, so last access ko siya is oo nga, pwede ba ang dito, access, kung kailan ko siya last na in-access. Sige, last, I haven't tried kung pwede ang access. Last, ayun, last access time. Kailan ko siya last na binuksan. Last access time, September 22, kanina lang, 2021. Yan, 2 hours ago. Diba? So, pwede mong ma-access or makita kung kailan mo na-access yung file. System.out.println. Let's try to take a look at the size. attr. That size. Okay. Size is 286,213. What does it mean? That's in KB. Kasi, ito kasi, long value kasi ang nilalagay niya. So, basically, ang binibigay dito is the byte size. Ito, bytes. Yan, byte. I haven't tried. Siguro, try nga natin i-multiply by 100 para maging kilobyte siya. Let's try. Malay mo. Oops. Hindi pa rin. Teka, divided by. Dapat. I think 1,000 pala. Ayun. So, pwede ko pala siyang, ayan, kilobytes. So, I divided this one into 1,000 para makuha natin yung kilobyte version niya. O, diba? Size, 286 kilobytes. So, possible pala siya. Diba? So, kung gusto nyo naman na megabytes, di gawin yung 10K. Actually, hindi eh. Ayan, 100K. Mas accurate ang kilobytes. Ayan. Okay? So, that's actually the path demo number 5. We are just simply trying to access the attributes of a certain file. Now, para makita natin na pwede siyang pumunta dito, let's try to change this one. Yung pangalan nito. Pangalan ng file. Yun, IO exception. Diba? So, yun yung nangyari. So, pag mali yung file, automatic, IO exception siya. Okay? Any questions so far? Before tayo mag-proceed sa last natin na part. Okay, i-take ko lang question. Alright, path demo number 6 na tayo. So, for path demo number 6, medyo ito na yung enjoy na part eh. Kasi we will try to compare two different files. So, meron na tayong dalawang klaseng file na pagkukumperan. Okay? So, dalawang klaseng file and we will try to take a look kung anong pinagkaiba ng dalawang file na yun. So, first, import java.nio.file, import java.nio.file attribute, and import java.io.io exception, and public static void main string args. Okay, so path file 1, tapos meron din tayo dito path file 2. Okay, para mas makita natin kasi magko-compare tayo ng dalawang file eh. So, paths.get, tapos yung URL. Ayan. I-compare natin yung module 1 and module 2 na file natin. So, module 1, module 2. I think pareho lang. Ayan. Oops. Ayan, module 1.pdf, paths.get. Okay. Then, ito, paths.get. Weird. Ayan. Module 2.pdf. Okay. Ayun. So, yan, we are trying to compare two different files. Yan. My module 1 and module 2. Okay. Ko-compare natin yung dalawang yan. Kung ano kalalabasan. Okay. So, first, dapat masanay na kayo dito. Meron na kayong try-catch. Laging dito pupunta kapag ka nagka-error. Pagka hindi nag-exist yung file din. So, IO exception E system .out.println IO exception. Okay? Yan. So, first, yung parang ginawa natin kanina, yung basic file attributes. So, sa loob nito, meron tayong basic file. Basic file attributes, attr1 is equal to files that read attributes file 1, tapos basic file, attributes, don't forget that class. Okay. So, i-copy mo yan, paste mo dito, this time palitan mo, imbis na attr1, attr2 na yan. So, ito, file 2. So, what we are actually trying to do here is to simply telling our Java or our compiler na, hey, we are trying to read the attributes of the first path and store them in attr1 variable. Same with the file 2 and storing them in attr2 variable. Okay? So this time, file time 1 is equal to attr1 dot creation time, file time 2 attr2 dot creation time. Okay. Titignan natin kung sinong mas nauna sa kanila. So system.out.println file 1's creation time is plus time 1 file 2's creation time is time 2. Okay. So, tingnan natin ha. Ayun. Diba? Kung napansin natin, hindi sila same or magkaiba sila ng oras. I mean, same day, pero magkaiba sila ng, kumbaga nagkapalit lang siya sa ano eh. Ano yun? Dun sa seconds. Diba? So, titignan natin ngayon kung sino mas nauna sa kanila. We will try to use a certain algorithm para makita yan. Kasi kukompare natin yan eh. If the time 1 comparing to the time 2 is less than 0, okay, ibig sabihin, the file 1 was created before file 2. Less than 0. Kasi ang nilalabas lang naman nito is 0, 1 eh. 0, negative 1, and 1. Tingnan natin ha. Ano ibig sabihin yan? So, if the time 1 dot compare to time 2 is less than 0, yan. Yung compare to kasi, ang nilalabas niya na file time is negative 1, 0, or 1. Okay. So, if the time 1 compared to time 2 is less than 0, that means ang nauna dito is file 1 was created after file 2. Okay. Gawa pa tayo. Isa pa. Else. Time 1 that compared to time 2 is greater than 0, meaning 1 ang lumabas. And file 1 was created after. Oops, I think, hindi. Dito. Dapat ito before pala, sorry. This is before file 2, after file 2, okay. Else, if ever na na-create sila pareho ng sabay, which I bet hindi nangyayari, file 1 and file 2 were created at the same time. Okay. Yan, tignan natin. So, meaning, file 1 was created after file 2. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Mas nauna pa palang na-create si file number 2, which is si module number 2. Which is, oo, kahit titignan ko dito, yung modified time ko, I mean, tama ba yung modified ba? Oo. Yung modified, or I mean, creation time ko, mas nauna nga. Because what happened was, when I downloaded the file from Google Drive, okay, naunang ang tawag dito? Oo, isa-isa ko siyang di-download eh. So, depending on my internet connection, kung ano yung unang nag-save, yun. Kung ano yung unang nag-save, yun yung unang makikreate. Kasi di ba ganun naman sa Google Drive, kung ano yung, kahit na sabay-sabay mo silang i-download, I mean, yeah, ganun yung ginawa ko eh. Sa Google Drive ko siya di-download eh. So, in this case, file 1 was created after file 2. So, that's how you will now compare to different files. So, I think pwede ka pang mag-compare ng attributes kagaya ng size and everything. So, kung gusto mong lagyan dito ng size, ganun din. Kung paano mo ginawa dito, attr.size, ayan, you can just simply create another if-else statement here comparing the sizes of the two. Diba? So, ayan, ITTR that size. Siyempre, hindi ko ipapakita yun kasi kasama yun sa ano eh, sa performance task eh. Any questions so far before ko i-show yung performance natin? Na naman? Mhm. Naisip mo na ako. Okay, I guess wala namang question, no? Now, let me go ahead and discuss your performance tasks. Kayo mag-alala sa performance task. Madali lang naman siyang intindihin. By the way, yung abangan nyo to ha. Hindi ko pa kasi ginagawa yung part na to. Ito. Yung written work na to. Abangan nyo na lang. Pati itong flowcharting. Abangan nyo na lang kasi wala pa siya. So for now, focus tayo sa performance tasks. Okay? So we have 4 different programming activities. Pakita ko sa inyo yung ito. So, create a file using any word processing program or text editor. Write an application that displays the file's name. Madali lang ha. File's name, containing folder, size, and time of last modification. I think na-discuss ko yan kung paano gamitin yan. So, I assume ko, madali nyo lang yung 1. Kayang-kaya yung 1. Okay. So, 2 tayo. Write an application that determines whether the two files are located in the same folder. Yan. Save the file as same folder.java. Pero, create 2 files using any word. So, dalawang file. Tapos, titignan mo, gagawa ka ng file ngayon kung yung 2 files na yun are located in the same folder. So, I guess, pinakita ko rin kung paano malaman or paano tayo gumawa ng program kung saan makikita natin kung saan nakasave, di ba? So, just to have an idea, meron tayong tinatawag na file path.getName, count minus 1. Ayan yung parang kanina. Count minus 1. Next, programming activity number 3. Create a file that contains your favorite movie quote. Okay. Use a text editor such as Notepad and save the file as quote.txt. Copy the file contents and paste them into a word processing program such as Word. Save the file as quote.docx. So, dalawang beses. Now, you have to write an application that displays the sizes of the two files as well as the ratio of their sizes to each other. Yun yung question. How are you going to determine the ratio of two sizes? Actually, madali lang. Madali lang yan. Is it 1 over 2? 1 over 1? 1 over 1, ibig sabihin, pareho silang size. Diba? 1 over 2, ibig sabihin, yung size ng file number 2 is bigger kalahati ng size ng file number 1. Parang ganon. Diba? So you can actually search a lot of algorithm on how to determine the ratio of a certain thing. That's programming activity number 3. For number 4, ito yung medyo challenge talaga. So kung napansin nyo, that is worth 50 points. So using a text editor, create a file that contains a list of at least 10 6-digit account numbers. Read in each account number and displays whether it is valid. Don't worry kasi itong part na to, hindi nyo pa to sasagutan, yung programming activity number 4. Kasi hindi ko pa kayo tinuruan kung paano basahin yung nasa loob mismo ng text file. Therefore, hindi nyo pa naman sasagutan ito. Pero para mas mag-ready kayo, ito yung next kasi na topic natin next week. Babasahin na natin kung ano yung nakaloob dun sa text file. Basically, what we are doing right now is to simply check kung accessible ba yung file, kung nag-exist ba siya, and so on. So, next week is kung paano natin siya i-access. Ito. So, next week, titignan mo kung yung number na yun, yan, if the sum of the first 5 digits is 15, yan, anyways, next week na to. Okay? So, focus muna kayo sa first three activities natin. Tatlo, 1, 2, 3. Sir, kailan po deadline? As usual, since ako yung teacher nyo, kung hanggat kaya nyo tapusin ng mas maaga, very good. Pero hanggat hindi pa naman kayo natatabunan ng pang next na activity, sige lang, go ahead lang. Kilala nyo ako, hindi ako nagbibigay ng deadline. Pero, mas magandang sagutan nyo na para hindi kayo matabunan. Okay? Pag wala daw po siyang laptop, pwede daw po ba yung Java and IDE? Yung yung ba yung sa phone? I think hindi pwede. Hindi ko pa kasi na-try eh. Pero think, I think lang ha, uh, medyo may hirapan kayo gumamit ng phone dito kasi we are trying to access outside files na eh. So, yun lang, yung medyo patay tayo. Diba? So, kung kakilala nyo naman yung yung walang phone, walang laptop, pwede nyo naman siyang tulungan or pahiramin for the meantime para masagutan niya. Kaya mag-alala, itong programming activity 4, pinag-iisipan ko baka by twos, by pair yan. Pero ito individual muna yung first 3. Okay, any question? Sino bang hindi ko pa na-check nito? Bimuyag, Kabigat. Dito ba si Kabigat? Dacoron, wala. De Guzman. Diso, Esteban. Ayun, nandito si Esteban. Esteban. Gawisan. Oh. Raise your questions lang dito sa public chat po natin para masagot po natin. Magarte. Wala si Magarte. Maon, wala. Pinmiliw. Wala din. Okay. Cool. Wala na po tayong question. Sir, may iba po pong similar. Anong PR? Programs like Netflix. Eclipse. Yes po, Eclipse. You can use Eclipse. I think sa topic natin ngayon, pwede pa ang Eclipse. Ma-access pa ang file. Magagamit pa ang NIO na import packages natin. Yan, Eclipse. So, yung mga gumagamit ng Eclipse, kindly confirm. Working siya, no, dito sa topic natin ngayon. Especially you, Hans. Ayun, working. Thank you. So, you can use Eclipse, Mr. Buenaventura. Siguro, Hans, and Mark, kung kaya niyo tulungan si Craig na mag-download ng Eclipse sa end niya. Kasi personally, hindi ako gumagamit ng Eclipse eh. Visual Studio sa NetBeans ang ginagamit ko. So, tulungan niyo na lang siya kung sakali. I'm not sure doon sa isa yung anong tawag dito? Anong IDE yun? Yung maganda? Ayan, sige. Tanong pa. Question pa. Lamok. 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 Anong version po ng NetBeans yung i-download? In my case, ito po, 8.2 for now, for now. Ito muna, for now. Okay, wala na po tayong questions. So you have 30 minutes remaining. Uh, I think you can use this time para at least ma-install nyo yung mga kailangan mo i-install dito sa ano natin. Kindly confirm your attendance. Baka may nakaligtaan po kasi ako na hindi ko na-check. So I hope nandito kayo. Ayan. Nakita nyo naman siguro, no? Na-check ko naman na. Ayun. Okay. So I guess kung wala na po tayong tanong, you can go ahead and leave our Big Blue Button conference and see you guys next week. Sir, hindi po ako naka-check. Villafuerte. Ayan. Okay. So kung okay na, pwede na po tayo umalis. Thank you guys. Bernesto. Sino pa? Thank you guys. See you next week. Bye-bye. Sir, may recorded po. I think meron po. Oo, meron. Naka-record ako sa OBS. So, no problem. Thank you guys. Sige. See you next week. Sige, no worries, Mark. Meron po. Save ko na lang. Yun, hindi daw naka-check. Rodrigo, hindi naka-check. Okay. Record video. Saan mo, sir, isend? Sa Canvas. Dito ko isend sa Canvas. Okay, sino pa? Thank you, thank you. Goodbye.
You are currently the only person in this conference.